Good news. Don Lemon could be headed to the slammer. Don, you should have listened to your own warnings.
Nobody is above the law. Nobody's above the law.
Oh, I hope you like prison, buddy. I'd say don't drop the soap, but you'd probably like that too much. Welcome back to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Honestly, the biggest problem that I have today is that I was going to bring champagne and I was going to toast and we were going to celebrate that maybe the justice system isn't as broken. Maybe there is just a little bright light that we have the same standard in this country. And I forgot this champagne. So you guys at home, if you have champagne, I know, I forgot it. I know. And I'll toast with this water. Cheers. Disgraced CNN anchor Don Lemon was arrested. Couldn't happen to a more deserving guy. Federal agents have arrested him over the Minnesota church protest. Now, it's so interesting. I called him disgraced Don Lemon, disgraced CNN host Don Lemon. I don't see that in the media anywhere, which is so interesting because he was already canned from CNN and somehow you're only disgraced if you're a conservative. If you're a conservative and you ever get fired from something or people decide that they don't like you anymore, you're disgraced. If you're Don Lemon and you make misogynistic comments on air and you cause problems at your company and you get fired and then you get arrested for your crimes, you're never disgraced. And so I just find that interesting. It's just something that I thought I would point out. So in typical homosexual fashion, Don Lemon is playing the victim, and it's all very dramatic, okay? So his lawyer said that he was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles where he was covering the Grammy Awards. The poor guy was just covering the Grammy Awards, and he got arrested. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done, which is a little odd considering most of his career he sat behind a desk and turned his nose up at everyone. So I'd say it's a little different. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing this work. And instead of investigating the federal agents who killed 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters, where were the peaceful protesters who got killed? Where were those people? What I saw was one chick drive a car into an ICE officer and the other guy go physically confront and put his hands on an ICE officer. I didn't see the peaceful protesters.
She peacefully ran the car into it.
She was just peacefully driving
yeah.
her car into a human being. It's very peaceful, though. Other than that, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. I mean, God, do I have to read all of these words? This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment, and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges. This is actually, it's so crazy that they put in writing. There seems to be so many people, including Don's lawyer, who doesn't understand what the First Amendment is. And I just want to go back to his actual statement when I just read it a second ago. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. Well, what do you think you were doing storming a damn church and terrorizing congregants in the church? Are they secretly in power? Do they hold any power? Are these are the, you're not going to take up your grievances with the government.
I'm just here photographing.
I don't understand. Are those people in power? No, of course not. They're just trying to worship at their church. So thank you for pointing out once again that this is not a case of First Amendment rights. Now, clearly, they've both demonstrated, Don and his lawyer, that they have no clue what the First Amendment is. So let's go ahead and give them a reminder, okay? The First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, that seems very clear to me. The point is that he's using this freedom of the press line, and he's like, "Well, I have the freedom. I'm a press. I have credentialed press badges. I am a journalist. I fancy myself a journalist. I get to go wherever the hell I want into any private institution, any private business, any private company, and go behave any way I want because I'm a journalist." Like, that's obviously not what this says. And I'm just saying, if Don Lemon was such an amazing journalist, he's a 30-year journalist, I think I know what I'm doing. I'm just doing what I've always been doing. Maybe, Don, go talk to your friends over at the Committee to Protect Journalists, who literally gives legal advice. They give legal advice. Let me give you some of their quick tips and recommendations. When covering demonstrations, protests, and campaign or political events, make sure you know in advance what restrictions are in place regarding the public's right to access, and then whether there are any restrictions on place. Do not trespass on private property to gather news. Oh, and on top of that, maintain neutrality when covering events. For example, do not join crowd chants or wear clothing with slogans related to the events you are covering. Obviously, those are two examples. They're not all encompassing. But even this is legal advice from a committee that wants to protect journalists. And even they are like, yeah, like your rights do not extend to private entities. And also, if you're going to cover it, you can cover it. But that just means like you follow, you show what's happening. You don't fan the flames or join in on the fun. Does that sound like what Don Lemon did? I don't know. We'll see in a second. It also says, the Committee to Protect Journalists says that the First Amendment protects both the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. Journalists have a right to access public places to gather and disseminate news. Public places include sidewalks and public parks, but not private property. Not private property. In addition, for government-owned property, even those that allow limited access to the public, members of the public, protesters, and reporters may be barred, which is honestly not even, like, that doesn't even apply because it already has said it exists, and that's fine. You don't have a right to go into private property and access it and do whatever the hell you would like. That's not part of your First Amendment right. It's also not part of your First Amendment right to go in, all of the protesters who went in there and stormed the church. You don't have a First Amendment right to just storm a private entity and start yelling and screaming at them. You could do it on the sidewalk. You could do it on public property. Your First Amendment rights don't extend to anything inside of private property. And remember, the point of it is that you have the right to protest your government. You have the right to protest whatever. You have the right to redress your grievances. But that is with the government, not with a church. So let's review some of what actually happened to see if Don Lemon here may be in a little bit of trouble. Maybe he went a little bit above and beyond his First Amendment right. And we have the receipts because he just live streamed it all. So like we have all of the footage. We already know he invaded private property. He was there inside the church. He stormed the church as well. So that's strike one, Don. Then, did he maintain his journalistic neutrality? Remember, that's what the legal advice said. It said you have to be neutral. If you're doing something like following a bunch of people that you know are committing a crime, but you feel that it is your journalistic right, it is your journalistic duty to follow them and document it, you shut the hell up and you do it. Now, I don't know what you think. I think the receipts prove otherwise. Watch.
The MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. So let me just make it clear, because this assistant attorney general, I don't know, what's her name? It's something Hammett.
It's Harmeet Dillon,
or whatever.
Mr. 30-year journalist.
I had no affiliation to that organization. I didn't even know they were going to this church until we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests.
Oh, he didn't know.
And once the protests started in the church, we did an act of journalism. These are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And it's Takima Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, can't tell you where they're going.
We're doing it, though.
Right now.
We're doing it.
And then we're going to head over to Whipple, and we're just going to show you what's happening on the ground.
Oh, well, hold on, Don. Hold on. Time out. You said afterwards, after you had been caught, you said afterwards, I had no idea, didn't know where they were going. But then I committed an act of journalism. That's all I did. I just followed them. Wherever the case may lead, I just followed them. But curiously, much different tune beforehand when he literally lumps himself into the group of people by saying, we are going to go do this. I know where we're going. I can't tell you, but we are going there. Much different tune than what he said afterwards when he was caught. So remember, he clearly knew. He was in on it. He groups himself in on the same group that we already know committed these violations. And on top of that, does this seem like Don Lemon is maintaining neutrality while talking to the preacher of this church?
We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left. So.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a
no
Christian?
One is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
I mean, the audacity of a homosexual man to be like scolding a pastor about what Jesus would do is like actually insane to me. I think Jesus says it's exit only. That's what I think. Like the audacity of this guy to go up to criticize the pastor. And remember, he said in his little before the protest when he's like, hey, we got a surprise for you. He said, that's what this woman does. She organizes these Operation Pull-Up events or whatever the hell he called it. And he said where they go in there and they surprise these people and they hold them to account. Like, who are you holding to account by going in and storming a church and terrorizing church members? None of this is tracking, Don. None of this is an act of journalism. How about Don Lemon belittling churchgoers?
I've been out reporting on a lot of these, and they're not targeted. There are no warrants signed by a judge. Let me finish. And they're American citizens, many of them. Most of the people that they detain don't have criminal convictions or criminal records.
I'm not going to get into the weeds.
You should know that, though. Don't you think that's part of it?
Yes, and I could also show you many opposing sides where we're also picking up the very criminals that have put Americans in danger. And I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm not saying it's not messy. I'm not saying it couldn't be better. I'm saying this is a part of a much larger dialogue in which one administration caused a great deal of chaos and havoc and danger for American citizens, and another is trying to correct that.
Do you believe that? Why honestly,
okay.
let me talk to you just on the
not
facts.
A journalist.
Yes, I am. I want to give you the facts.
No.
Did you know that undocumented people and immigrants commit far less crime than American
neutrality?
citizens?
Is that neutrality, Don? Dude, you're screwed. You are screwed. You are caught in 4K not committing an act of journalism, as it turns out. And by the way, remember, it couldn't happen to a more deserving guy, because as he was a part of this, he was like mocking the children. Like, well, these kids are walking out. They look pretty traumatized, but it's time for them to learn pretty early on that, hey, it's just what the First Amendment is about. Watch.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. And, you know, I've imagined it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful. It's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here, but that's what really, careful, please, really slippery. Not kidding.
It's uncomfortable.
That's
sometimes
what
the First Amendment is uncomfortable. And it's just good that these kids can learn that as early, as young as possible. It's just what the First Amendment is about. Like, could you, I would respect these people more if they weren't just so blatantly retarded. Like, know what you're talking about, dude. You call yourself a journalist. You want to tell everyone that I'm a journalist for 30 years, and you still don't understand that the First Amendment has nothing to do with your right to storm private property. Like, that is not part of it. And you don't get to follow, like, you are not acting as a journalist. You're going in there, you're instigating things. You're criticizing the pastor of a church. You're going back and forth belittling the churchgoers. If you want their opinion, you hold the mic out and you get their opinion. You're going, do you really believe that? Come on. Actually, let me explain to you why you're wrong. That is not maintaining neutrality. And by the way, let's talk about maintaining neutrality. Let me show you what an impartial journalist. He just committed an act of journalism, and he is so impartial that he went on later to go tell this trans woman, or what, she looks trans. I'm told that I guess she's a biological female. Could have fooled me. Here's what he had to say to this Democrat hack.
And there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are, you know, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy. And they think that this country was built for them, that it is a Christian country, when actually we left England because we wanted religious freedom. It's religious freedom, but only if you're a Christian and only if you're a white male, pretty much. And so, yeah, I absolutely 100%, but it's an intimidation tactic. And, you know, I said, I don't understand how I've become the face of it when I was a journalist. I do understand that I'm the biggest name there. And I'm also, as I was on with my producers this morning, you know, you and Kylie talk all the time. My producers were saying, I said, how did I become the face of this? And my producer said, Don, you're a gay black man in America.
Oh, well, hold on. So now the church members are white supremacists? So did you only engage in Operation Pull-Up because they were white? Because now I'm just thinking maybe they should look into upgrading the charges to a hate crime. I have you on 4K explaining that I guess they deserved it because they were white. And now because they are white, they must be white supremacists. And that's why what you did was okay. Maybe the folks over at the DOJ should be looking for whether or not they should upgrade this to a hate crime. By the way, this man has also called for an armed uprising. You know, just as an impartial journalist, he's called for an armed uprising against ICE explicitly.
Black people, brown people of all stripes, whether you're an Indian American or a Mexican American or whoever you are, go out in your place where you live and get a gun legally, get a license to carry legally. Because when you have people knocking on your door and taking you away without due process as a citizen, isn't that what the Second Amendment was written for?
Did someone add lisps there? Did I swear, Steven, did I like that? He doesn't normally lisp like that, does he?
I actually wasn't really listening because Chris gave me some breaking news to break for this, that he officially was charged with federal civil rights crimes in this protest as well.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Throw the book at these bastards. Hell yes. Oh my God. Just inject that into my veins. By the way, I don't use drugs. It's just a joke. But if I did, I could inject that and that would get me totally high. I would be riding high for the rest of the day. And by the way, I want to remind you guys, he was arrested after he was indicted by a grand jury. This was not President Trump unilaterally being a dictator. This was a grand jury of his peers. I believe it was in Minnesota, who decided, yeah, it turns out you can't do that. This is incredible. We need more of it. Now, I do want to play for you the organizer. Just, we're having fun today. It's a good day. It's a celebration. Arrest all of these blowhards who break the law and think that they're above the law while turning down their nose at you and saying nobody is above the law. The organizer who he mentioned, Nikema Armstrong, she was arrested previously. And I guess she's been bailed out or whatever because she's back, taken to the podium. And she's like, let me tell you how traumatic it was that I was taken away in chains. And I think you're going to know where she's immediately going to go with that.
We had belly chains around our waists, and we had handcuffs with bars in the middle. As someone who majored in African American studies, I can tell you that that is the closest I ever felt to slavery in my life. Being shackled as if I was a slave. It is unacceptable and unconscionable, but it's on brand.
Oh, I saw Larry Elder say that the closest that she had ever been to slavery was picking the cotton out of her aspirin bottle. And that's about right. So it's not like slavery when we put the people in chains, the white people who are getting arrested, but somehow it's like slavery because you're black. So we should, I guess, just not cuff them.
PTSD for them, Sarah. It's too soon.
Is it?
It's too soon.
This woman had no experience with slavery at all.
It's too soon.
How many generations removed does it become not too soon?
Too soon.
It's always too soon, I guess. Golly, it's incredible. So, as you would expect, as you would predict, the Democrats, they're not well. They're not handling this well. Let me give you Senator Cory Booker. Arresting a journalist is a blatant attempt to intimidate and a further indicator of Trump's authoritarianism. It had nothing to do with Trump. It goes against the most fundamental American values outlined in the First Amendment. So what he is saying there, guys, I'm going to ask, next time I have a lawmaker on, I'm going to ask them, can we institute, you can't run for office unless you can answer the most basic quiz about our actual fundamental rights. Because I notice that these people talk about our fundamental rights and American values and our rights in the First Amendment all the time, and they clearly have no idea what they're talking about, because what he's saying here seems to insinuate that if you are a journalist, you can just break whatever laws you want and then just say, I'm a journalist, and you're totally immune to any sort of arrest, which is absolutely patently absurd. And yet you have a senator. There's only 100 of those guys in the entire country. There's only 100. And somehow this guy doesn't even know about the most basic fundamental principles of this country. Let me give you House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Don Lemon is an accomplished journalist. I can't even say that with a straight face. An accomplished journalist whose urgent work is protected by the First Amendment. There is zero basis to arrest him, and he should be freed immediately. The Trump Justice Department is illegitimate, and these extremists will all be held accountable for their crimes against the Constitution. Again, save your anger, I guess, for the grand jury who looked at the evidence and decided that, yes, he did commit crimes. It was them, not Trump. Trump wasn't I know, I'm going to infiltrate this grand jury with my own people. These were people in Minnesota who said, yeah, I think that he did something wrong, and I think that he should feel the accountability of that. This is how, these people have no concept of just, basic facts. And my favorite, Jasmine Crockett. Are you effing kidding me? At least she censored herself that time. That's interesting. Don Lemon has been arrested by the DOJ. Exercising your First Amendment constitutionally protected right gets you locked up. Exercising your second gets you killed, and actual murder, well, in uniform gets you nothing. This is not normal nor okay. How'd I do, Stephen?
That was pretty spot on. I was scared for a second. I thought she was here.
Got the head on a swivel. Yep. I've been practicing. And then, of course, Keith Olbermann, who I'm not sure if anyone even still listens to him. Every time I bring up Keith Olbermann, I do have to say it does feel like nobody in his family loves him enough to tell him that he should stop. Like, I mean, imagine going on the way that you are. And
Sarah, there's no way anyone in his family loves him. Have you heard him?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, apparently nobody loves him enough to be like.
Yes, apparently. 100%. I'd be shocked if someone did tell him to stop.
Yeah, I mean, just to bring embarrassment on the family, even maybe. So he said, anybody still doubt this lunatic tyrant Trump has always planned to arrest journalists, suppress media, and neuter the First Amendment? Now he's started. By the way, Keith Olbermann, the same Keith Olbermann who had no problem with Steve Bannon, when he got sent to prison. Oh, no one is above the law, not even the rich, not even the powerful, not even the derelict. And the Biden regime, remember, like they targeted conservatives explicitly, nearly 100 Republican groups and individuals. And then on top of that, since this hits so close to home, our very own Steve Baker was charged for covering January 6th. And last time I looked at the footage of Steve, I didn't see him going in there and trying to argue with anyone about what is happening in DC on that day. He is literally simply like documenting it. And he faced charges. He was going to be locked up until President Trump acted and pardoned all of those poor people. So you know what? Spare me. The FACE Act exists. You guys had no problem charging peaceful protesters protesting outside of pro-life communities, pro-life centers. I'm sorry, outside of abortion clinics. Now you expect some sort of, immunity? You did it. Face the consequences. I hope they throw the book at them. Want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. So Patriot Mobile is, I love Patriot Mobile. They're my dear friends, Glenn and Jenny Story. And Patriot Mobile, what most people don't realize, it's not just a wireless provider. They're a proud activist organization selling top-tier cell phone service. They've been on the front lines defending our freedoms before it was even cool. And the best part is they deliver prioritized premium service on all 3 major U.S. networks, giving you the same or even better coverage, backed by 100% U.S.-based support. So you can get unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming. Customize it however you like is the point. But you know that you are funding causes that you believe in, not causes that you are fighting against. Take a stand today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Sarah. Use promo code Sarah for a free month of service. That is patriotmobile.com/Sarah. Obviously, one of my current projects is exposing how people are abusing our immigration system, not just the illegal, but also the legal, by setting up shell companies to import thousands of people on H-1B visas. And of course, the end result is they take away American jobs. They take away American resources. I mean, it is a big problem in this country. And I think the American people are feeling it, which, by the way, on that note, we did go out and shoot another video today. So stay tuned for that. But so far, the response has been great. The state of Texas is taking action to limit or pause H-1B visas statewide. Attorney General Ken Paxton is launching investigations. But the problem is so much bigger than Texas. And I'd like to hear something from the federal government. Well, that's where my next guest comes in. Joining me now is Representative Chip Roy, who also is running to be the Attorney General of the great state of Texas. Representative, thank you so much for joining me. You actually have introduced the Pause Act, which would, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would just simply put a pause on all immigration, including H-1B visas. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And, we introduced that after we saw so many of these horror stories that many of us have known for a long time, that the system was plagued with so much fraud and so many problems, and have been pushing back on it. And, going all the way back through before the big, beautiful bill, going all the way back to the various immigration debates we've had. Many of us have been trying to, raise up the red flags that there's massive issues here. Now people are seeing it. And thanks to your good work, other people's great work and exposing it, I think we're finally starting to get some traction that maybe this system is pretty corrupt. And that the fact that we have 51.5 million foreign-born people in the United States, about 16% of the population, higher than we've ever had, that maybe like we did in the 1920s, we should pause. We should reassess. We should remove some of the people who don't want to assimilate, remove some of the people who are here illegally, remove dangerous actors, get our system back to normal, and pause the abuse that these corporations are carrying out. It's not even just for cheap labor, high-tech labor. They're literally, it's fraudulent, as you've been exposing right there in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
Yeah, I won't say who because I don't have his permission to share this. Not that I think he would care, but there is a Texas state representative who saw my expose and he texted me and he was just like, this is so wrong because we didn't even have a choice in this. The federal government did this to us. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. Obviously, you're one of the good guys, as I call it, but there is a lot of truth to that. It's just like we seem to be at the mercy of USCIS approving these. And in what I'm uncovering, I'm like, it feels like they're just totally asleep at the wheel, just rubber stamping any application without doing basic levels of digging, which is the real scary part to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could talk for 2 hours on this, but I'll try to distill it very quickly. If you go look at the last, I'm going to say 2 decades, 20 years ago, when I was a lawyer on Capitol Hill, we were fighting the amnesty push of 2006-7 under the Bush years. I could walk you through for 2 hours the battle scars of fighting to stop what was going to be a giant amnesty. And everybody then was talking about, remember, they were talking then and then again in 2012, 2013, that amnesty push, remember the Gang of Eight?
Yeah.
All of that was being built around the idea, well, there's some people here who are illegally. We should remove them, but we need a massive increase in legal immigration. Mm-hmm. Remember, that's always been the place, the Chamber of Commerce, the Wall Street Journal, all of the swamp creatures all go, hey, yeah, we'll agree, stop the illegal immigration, but we need a massive expansion of legal immigration. So what you had then was juicing of H-1Bs, of diversity visas, chain migration, all of these things to use the tools of legal immigration, which was supposedly good. And now, to be clear, I think we've actually gotten more damage to this country from so-called legal immigration, where we've ended up with all of these Somalis, all of these people who don't want to assimilate. You've got the abuse of the H-1Bs, Indian, Pakistani, wherever they come from, doesn't matter. And they've got fake residences, as you're pointing out, in Frisco and everywhere else. And now we're exposing it. But now what do? We have people here who are legal that need to be removed because they're not assimilating. They're not being part of the culture. And everybody who's here illegally needs to be removed. But am I more offended by the 30-year Mexican who's been working here, or the Somali who's sitting here and is trying to change my culture, like Ilhan Omar wants to do? Let's recognize we've been built by so-called legal immigration.
Exactly right. So, I mean, obviously, we still have a majority, though very slim. Where's the bill at right now, and what can we do to try to put some pressure to get it all the way through?
Well, I think we were making some good progress on the SAVE Act to guarantee only citizens vote in our elections, trying to demonstrate that we could maybe break down the so-called, what I call the fake filibuster in the Senate, because this 60-vote threshold is nonsense. If we force Democrats who want to block this to have to go give a speech on the floor, we think we can break them. So the SAVE Act has been our sort of tip of the spear. The PAUSE Act is gaining traction. We need more promotion of it so people can understand that it's not radical, it's not crazy. All we're saying is pause. You can, continue to go through like tourist visas, but everything else stops. Let's review the whole system. Let's make sure that we're stopping adherence to Sharia law. Let's make sure that we're stopping the abuse of diversity visas and chain migration and H-1Bs. Let's fix and reform the system, and let's resettle everything, and then we can have a debate. But we need to push it forward because right now with a thin majority, everything now we're on our heels after the Minnesota issue. And I'm trying to encourage Republicans, stay on offense, stay on mission. We have got to stop responding defensively and instead say the radical left, the Marxists, the Antifa warriors, the Islamists, they're trying to remake Texas and remake America. Don't apologize. Yes, we want to do everything right. Tom Homan, I'm glad he's going to Minneapolis. Let's do it all right. Neither you nor I or your viewers are for law enforcement running amok.
Right.
We are for law enforcement backing them up to remove people here who are under orders of removal, who are gang members, who are dangerous, who don't want to assimilate. They need to be gone.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I just wrote an op-ed. I'm curious your thoughts on this. I just wrote an op-ed at theblaze.com a couple days ago about eliminating the H-1B visa, which I know it would take a step further than the PAUSE Act that you're considering. So I don't want to conflate the two. That's not what you're advocating. It's what I'm advocating. And so, but I said, we could eliminate it, and people go, well, what about the best of the best? And what about, bringing in and damaging the American jobs and the American companies? And I'm like, okay, but what about the EB-5? Why aren't we talking about that more? Because that would bring people over if they can invest in the American economy and bring in, $1 million invested in a company and then provide full-time work to 10 American workers. So there are ways that we can structure this that it's a win-win. Why aren't we doing that? And until we can, I just don't agree that this system is bringing in the best and the brightest. I mean, I'll give you one more, Chip, is that I'm going through all of these H-1B, applications, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you need an athletic trainer at Texas A&M, and the only place that you can find it, is from a foreign country. You need an elementary school math teacher, and the only place you can find it, you can't find one single American worker. You have to go to a foreign country. I can't believe that. That's not believable.
It's very clearly false.
Yeah.
It is very clearly false that H-1Bs are bringing in, the high-skilled workers that we need. That's just not true, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is all of the stuff they're selling us with it is not true. It's not what's actually happening. And so to your point, I support the Pause Act because I think it's across all issues. And I'm trying to make everybody understand we have, frankly, too many foreign-born people here for us to maintain our sovereignty, our identity as Americans. We need to pause. But I agree with you, and I'm introducing legislation probably next week that is going to be a massive overhaul of H-1Bs that would completely change the way we do it. And frankly, it would make it to where it wouldn't even be the current H-1B system. We need a wholly different approach to it. And again, I still say we need to pause and then figure out what we do, because if we don't remove a lot of the people who've come here, we're not going to have a country left. That's just true. That's why I support Tom Homan and support the president, and support Stephen Miller, and support DHS and ICE and Border Patrol. We cannot blink. But to your point, absolutely. The H-1B system is not what has been advertised, and we should not treat it as such. Frankly, it's a lie.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, obviously, I mentioned it earlier. You're running for Attorney General here in the state of Texas, where I assume you would continue this fight against visa fraud here.
Yeah, it's actually probably the singular issue that is driving me to run for Attorney General. At least certainly it's the number one issue. I mean, we got to get criminals off our streets. We've got to make sure we're standing up for election integrity. That's why I authored the SAVE Act. But all these things are interrelated. And stopping the illegal flow across the border, if we ever have a future Biden and Mayorkas, we need to declare invasions. We need to be much more active. Stopping the illegal alien children getting free education under the wrongly decided Plyler v. Doe. We need to stop that. We need to stop the abuse of visas by the federal government that is making Texas be beholden to a federal government, putting a lot of people in our state that don't believe in Texas values. We need to stand up to that. We need to stand up against the Islamification of Texas. We need to stop the building of not just EPIC, not the Islamic Center in Houston, not just the new one in Austin, not just the one in West Campus of the University of Texas. We have 300 mosques across the state of Texas. It is organized, it is funded, and the AG's office has express power to look at all these nonprofits, open up their books, and follow the money. We cannot allow CARE to laugh in our face as they're doing right now when they go to the Austin City Council to have a Muslim Appreciation Day, and they know full well that the governor just declared CARE as what they are, a terrorist organization. So as Attorney General, I will be on full offense on all of those issues to maintain Texas sovereignty.
Great. That's what a relief to hear. Chip Roy, Representative Chip Roy. I'm sorry, you're my friend, so I call you Chip, and I should be more formal.
Chip is what it is. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. You can find out more about his run, chiproy.com. Running for Attorney General of Texas. It's always nice to catch up with my friend Chip Roy. All right, we have more to come, but I want to just remind you guys, blazetv.com/Sarah is where you can get a subscription to Blaze TV. You can save some moolah, some money with promo code Sarah, blazetv.com/Sarah. We'll be right back. Well, there's obviously a lot of threats to this country, from the invasion of illegals to the H-1B visas that I just mentioned. But I think one of the most concerning things is the Islamic takeover. It just continues to happen, and they're not being quiet about it either. They're just telling us exactly how they plan to do it.
I have been given this strategic plan, framework for success for the Muslim community. And let's just think about it together. in the next couple of minutes. We have almost 4,000 mosques in America. 4,000 mosques. 4,000 mosques. About 6 million people attend these 4,000 mosques every Friday. That's really the infrastructure of the Muslim community. Establish a scholarship on an annual basis to do the following: to offer scholarships for 5 students. 1, to study journalism. 2nd, to study filmmaking. 3rdly, to study law. 4th, political science. And 5th, history or humanity. Why? If we start in 2025 or 2026, depends on you, 4 years from now, 4,000 mosques in America, remember, 4,000 mosques. We will have, in 4 years, 4,000 new journalists, filmmakers, lawyers, history students who will become teachers, and students and graduates of political science. 20 years from now, we keep doing it every year. 20 years from now, the Muslim community will have 50,000 attorneys, 50,000 journalists, 50,000 filmmakers, 50,000 professors of political science and history. If we do that, the Muslim community will write its own history.
And joining me now to discuss this is former Tarrant County GOP chairman. Are you still the chairman, or did you have to resign?
Oh, I resigned.
Okay, well, because he's running for Texas Railroad Commissioner, Beau French, my friend Beau. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Sarah. Thank you.
You have been one of the leading voices on this Islamification of, I mean, I would say just the Texas, but it's not just Texas. It's, of course, the country. And it feels like, you know, like in James Bond, where the villain, they're like, oh, I've got him trapped and I'm going to outline my evil plan. But then usually someone swoops in to prevent it from happening. And it feels like nobody is rescuing us from this.
I mean, it does feel that way because, I mean, really, until I started talking about it, I didn't notice anybody really talking about it. Certainly no elected officials, really. And, you know, I think if you just, I talked to a lot of voters, talked to a lot of grassroots people, and everybody's concerned about this. It's literally the biggest issue probably in the election this year. And which is why now more and more candidates are talking about it. You know, they weren't really talking about it before, but it really is the way I look at it. And thank God for what's going on in Minnesota is like, because the pictures coming out of there really tell a story of, it's not just the Somalis, right? They're all Muslims as well, don't forget. Right. And so it really just kind of highlights, again, what we're seeing both in, you know, in Michigan, like Dearborn and places like that. And then, you know, we have 330 mosques in Texas now. And these imams are not shy about just, I mean, openly talking about, there's plenty of video out there for you to find on social media where they talk about, we're going to, I mean, in other words, like just conquer our society, right? That's their whole goal.
That's the whole point. That's what I don't, I'm like, guys, just look in history, just read their books, just read their own holy books. It's clearly the goal. They're not being quiet about that. And we're just like, oh, well, freedom of religion, we got to let them in.
Yeah, but it's not really, it's not a religion. It's a political structure. And so one of the reasons that CARE came after me, Council of American Islamic Relations, terrorist organization.
Yes, exactly right.
One of the reasons they came after me is because I was I think the first person really to just come out and say in Texas we need to ban Islam. Yeah. You know, we need to ban everything related to it. We need to ban the dress. We need to ban no more mosques. We need to shut them all down. Halal. We should ban
food,
that.
Which you were the first person who I saw. You said that, and I was like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. We should do that. There's no reason why we shouldn't do that.
Yeah. I mean, we have the power. My frustration with a lot of Republicans just generally, and I think a lot of people feel this way too, is, you know, we vote for these people to go represent our values in office, and then they don't do that. Or they do part of it, but not all of it. And the Democrats never have that problem. They are all full-blown Marxist, communists. I mean, every single elected Democrat is, and they're all in on it. They have no problem wielding power, and the Republicans get in, and we don't wield power. Why is that? And so, old enough to have seen a lot change in my lifetime. And so I watched this and I'm like, why aren't Republicans doing what, we've always said we wanted to do? Like, what are we conserving? I've always said I'm a conservative, but what are we conserving?
Right.
So our culture is changing, and it's not just Islam. It's, as you've, pointed out, and I started talking about it too. I said that the fraud in Texas was probably going to be bigger than Minnesota. We're a much larger state.
Oh, yeah.
And we have, more population. We have huge immigrant populations here. And if these morons up in Minnesota could figure out all this stuff, I mean, they're like the lowest IQ people on the planet. If they could figure out all this fraud, imagine what, some of these people coming over from India or other places are doing here. And, your work over the last week has been great on that too.
I appreciate that.
Glad you're doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's honestly, it's one of those things that like when you see it, you can't unsee it. And now it's just kind of my whole life has been taken over by this because we opened up a tips email address and it's just been flooded, our inbox and going through all of these and trying to figure it out. It's now like my new life's mission that I didn't realize was happening. So, but I want to talk about your run. So you're running for Texas Railroad Commissioner.
Right.
Why did you decide to do that?
Well, so that's the agency that regulates oil and gas and mining in Texas. So it's our biggest and most important industry in Texas. My family's been in the oil business for 80 years. I've been in the oil business, in various aspects, my whole career. So it's personally important to me. But mainly, I'm running against a guy who is essentially a Democrat. And I say that, not lightly. I mean, he spearheaded and oversaw the largest increase in kind of Green New Deal type environmental regulations on the oil industry, which of course raise costs for everybody, including consumers, and but also just industry players. And then has had this weird obsessive focus on DEI. The Railroad Commission has gone from if you rank the state agencies in Texas on DEI spending, they've gone from 41st in the state to now 9th in the state.
Shut up.
Under his leadership. So like in a time when Donald Trump and, all of us America First types are like, no, we need to get rid of DEI because it's terrible.
Oh my God.
And destroying our culture. He's been increasing the focus on that. More than half their budget is going to DEI.
No.
And so I'll end that on day one. And then lastly, we just uncovered yesterday that if you look at his political donations, he is primarily given to Democrats, like a lot of money, not just a little, a lot of political donations to Democrats, including the former chair of the DNC.
Wow.
And he said the other day on X that he's not, he doesn't have an ideology. I mean, we're running in the Republican primary. We're running to represent, look, if you're like me, I want to vote, everybody I vote for, I want to vote for people who are going to go fight for
yes, of course.
Our principles,
otherwise, what's
our
the
values.
Point?
Exactly.
You have to have an ideology. Otherwise, why are you running? What is the point other than power and control? That's so disgusting. Well, here's the problem is that people in the state of Texas realize for these positions, they can't get elected unless they run as a Republican in the state of Texas. That doesn't necessarily mean they are an actual Republican. So I personally endorse Beau French. If you're in the state of Texas, surprise! If you're in the state of Texas, you should definitely vote for Beau French. But I do want to ask, while I have you, we've got like about a minute left. So you said you're in the oil and gas industry for forever. Is it like Landman in real life?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, I've been hanging out at the patch,
Yeah.
I go throw a beer back there later.
Get in the bar fights and stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, I watched that.
It is funny because that is actually highlighted for a lot of people who weren't paying attention to kind of just this what is this industry in Texas and it's actually highlighted. I live in Fort Worth and there's lots of Taylor Sheridan landman type stuff going on around Fort Worth and it's kind of fun, but it's a real industry and it's a serious industry and it's actually national security, which is why Donald Trump focuses on things like Venezuela and Iran, because, with the largest oil reserves in the world in Venezuela and Iran is third, I think, or something like that. So, energy is national security, and Texas produces almost half the oil and gas for the entire United States. So it is very important that we have the right-thinking people, business-minded people who are America first
Yeah.
in that position.
Amen. All right, real quick, tell everyone where they can go to support your campaign.
Yeah, just beaufrench.com is my website, or you can follow me on X at BeauFrenchTX.
Oh, Beau French is a good X follow. Like, if you think I'm spicy, go follow Beau French TX, and make sure to go support his campaign. I'm voting for Beau. I hope everyone in the state of Texas does. I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. All right, we'll be right back. If you support ICE and also capitalism, make sure to go to SarahMerch.com. Support your local ICE raids. You can get all the merch there, along with a lot more, actually. SarahMerch.com. Visit me over at American Beauty by Sarah as well. Get you some makeup, some skincare. We've got you covered there as well. AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. We'll see you next week.